story, and they must have had something else that they were basing this on, whether it be the dossier or some other information that they were using as a reason to go out and surveil the Trump campaign.
So the suspense is growing about exactly what was going on with the FBI, the CIA, and the Trump campaign, and where this investigation started. Let's go to Dan Bongino down in Florida. Good morning, Dan.
Hey, good to be here. Good to see you all.
Dan, it seems like the plot keeps thickening.
Well, I've been telling you all on this show forever that the Trump team was framed and was set up. And, of course, you know, the liberals and some of the anti-Trumpers say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, except for the fact that most of it actually happened. And now we're getting confirmation on a lot of this. Guys, think about what Kim Strassel's, by the way, it was an epic piece in the Wall Street Journal she wrote. Think about what she said in that piece. A human intelligence asset working for the FBI may have been embedded or working to gather information on the opposition political candidate in the form of the Trump team while Obama was in office. Do you understand what that means? That a human intelligence asset was spying on the Trump team, in addition to unmasking, in addition to foreign intelligence passing information to the United States on the Trump team as well, as CNN themselves reported?
Dan, by the way, I just want to say one other thing. Who was running the FBI in 2016?
Yeah, Jim Comey, and that's why Jim Comey's running scared right now.
Yeah, but the big question remains, Dan, what evidence are they using to surveil if this ends up being true, if they were surveilling the Trump campaign before any of this we knew about? Are they using the dossier that we know was funded by Democrats? Are they using James Comey's memos, which were basically his diaries and his personal feelings about President Trump? What evidence are they using that gives them the access that they need to monitor people?
Abby, here's the disturbing part about this. The evidence, it seems to have been they found a crime. They found a person and manufactured a crime. Not that they had a crime and then found the evidence later on. The person was Trump. They targeted Trump from the beginning. It appears that there were intelligence assets and people in the Obama administration and political operatives hell-bent on making Trump and Trump's team what I call dirtying them up. It's a law enforcement term. You know, make them look bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to send people in there, sources, and we're going to try to get them to admit to things they did or didn't do, what we would call a setup. Now, the list of suspects, by the way, is really short on this, and a lot of people have an idea who this source is, but I can tell you this. All the names are deeply troubling because some of them have connections to foreign intelligence and people who worked for foreign intelligence outlets before, which gives this thing a whole other disturbing angle we haven't even touched yet.
So, Dan, this is before the Comey memos. This is before the dossier. You're saying, but what Kim Strassel and others are saying is potentially there was an FBI asset put inside the Trump campaign to provide them information. What would we've asked this before, but was the premise that they really thought there was maybe some collusion or conversations with Russia, or would it have purely been a political motive of, we don't like this guy, we want inside his campaign?
I believe there were intelligence operators in the United States at a high level, some of them who were more political than intelligence, unfortunately. But Pete, as you know, the intelligence community has no law enforcement authority at all. They could not open an investigation formally into Trump without the FBI. I believe when it becomes public what happened with upper-level managers at the CIA, that they pushed the FBI and basically used these sources to get information to push the FBI into opening a formal counterintelligence investigation into Trump because the Central Intelligence Agency couldn't do it. They're not a law enforcement entity. That's what happened, and that's where this source is going to come into play. And one more thing, the date matters here. Kim nailed it in that piece. If that George Papadopoulos meeting in May, if this source entered the intelligence scene before that, that means the FBI's whole story about how this started is bunk. It's garbage.
And as Ed said, who was head of the FBI at that time, James Comey, he's someone that might be quite nervous about that. When asked about Devin Nunes asking for these FBI classified info, he says that is dangerous to ask for. Here's what he said.
I thought everyone understood that the absolute core of the intelligence community, including the FBI, is its human sources. That's really all the FBI is. That's really all the CIA is. You cannot overstate the danger in that kind of behavior to the security of the United States.
What do you make of that response?
Abby, there's a lot in there. Let me unpack this for you. It is dangerous what Jim Comey said, the Nunes investigation. To him, to Jim Comey, because it's going to uncover a couple things. Jim Comey hid this investigation from congressional oversight, which he was obligated to do by procedure, for 8 months. He was supposed to give quarterly briefings. He hid this investigation into Trump for 8 months. Another thing, he's right. The FBI is sources. Sources are a gold mine for the FBI. Here's the problem, Abby. Yeah. You have to verify the sources.
Right.
Jim Comey was the FBI director where they used unverified garbage to investigate the now president of the United States, former presidential candidate.
We just showed a picture
failed in his duties.
of Republican Chuck Grassley. He's also demanding questions about FBI memos and information that might show whether or not Michael Flynn really lied to the FBI, which is a whole other question we'll be getting into all weekend long, because that's a big story as well. Dan Bongino, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Dan.
Good to see you, Dan.
You got it, guys.
All right, turning now to some other headlines we are following. The NRA is suing New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and the state, alleging a, quote, backlisting campaign. The lawsuit accuses Cuomo and the state's financial services department of trying to get banks and insurers to cut ties with the gun group. And of this coming after New York fined an NRA insurance broker for $7 million, claiming it didn't have a license to do business in the state. The NRA is seeking millions of damages. And Starbucks now telling employees let anyone use their bathrooms. The new policy change comes after the controversial arrest of 2 black men at a store in Philadelphia in April, sparking nationwide